Hello there guys, happy Monday. Hope you're doing really well wherever you're watching or listening to this. I wanted to do today's show mainly on Nicolas Jackson, the brilliance of Nicolas Jackson after his 2 goals at the weekend, but then just also looking at why he is so good, why he probably is the most underrated centre forward in the Premier League. I don't think that's a bold statement given the way even his own fans treat him, and looking at his trajectory, looking at how he's improved, specific examples of how he's improved so far this season, which is going to be exciting to delve into. Obviously, we've got the Barrow game tomorrow. I was going to do a team selector for it, but given what Enzo Maresca said in his pre-match press conference, there's going to be so much rotation in this game. It's going to be very hard to predict what the starting 11 is, but we will be doing my rational perspective, reacting to whatever happens. Hopefully, another comfortable Chelsea win in the Carabao Cup. So that will be on the show tomorrow. But let's delve into it. Firstly, I do want to say a massive thank you once again to the guys from Alloy Collectors. They've been really supportive of the channel, really supportive of the content. And as I've mentioned before, you guys can get 15% off this metal home shirt retro. It's not the only thing they do, but I'm such a big fan of it. I have it on my desk. When we move into the new Son of Chelsea studio, fingers crossed very soon, this will be taking a special place because I just love the design of it. It's good quality. It's easy to assemble. You can also get these either assemble them yourself if you're someone that's more into DIY, or of course ready-made with the holder as well. It comes with a Chelsea FC holder, as you can see here. If you're listening on the podcast as well, go onto my social media feed, specifically Instagram. You can see me getting this one, putting the 25 on the back, and of course you can customize it with a name as well, and you can get 15% off at checkout using my discount code SonOfChelsea in the description box, not only on YouTube but also on the podcast show notes as well. So thank you once again to Alloy Collectors. Really passionate about supporting their products because I think it really is good quality, great collectible to have, really nice and thoughtful, and as well doesn't take up tons of space. You know, if you're someone that looks at certain collectibles and thinks, well, this is just going to take too much space on my desk, on my shelf. Really good, compact, but nice, thoughtful collectibles as well. So go and support Alloy Collectors. But let's delve into it now with Nicolas Jackson. So kind of an overview since the start of last season, which really showcase his productivity and actually showcases his ability from open play at scoring goals. This was from live score, but it's actually quite incredible when you think about the discourse around Jackson, the perception of Nicolas Jackson versus the actual reality of what Nicolas Jackson has provided as Chelsea centre forward. So open play goals, this is since the start of the 23-24 season. Jackson leads with 16 goals. That is one more than Isaac at Newcastle, 2 more than Mohamed Salah, 2 more than Cole Palmer, of course, Chelsea's star boy, a couple more, of course, than Dominic Solanke, and actually quite a few more than Kai Havertz, who, I keep on hearing has had this amazing ascent at Arsenal, but, still isn't better than Nicolas Jackson, who I do think is quite a big upgrade on Kai Havertz. And then going through some tweets here that I picked up over the weekend after he scored that double against West Ham. Kieran Doyle here saying Jackson up to 4 goals, 2 assists on 3.7 XG plus X expected assist, that is, in 360 league minutes this year. Doesn't even feel like he's on a heater, just is legitimately one of the best strikers in the world. And then Dougie Critchley pointing out here goals in their first 40 Premier League games. This is another quite staggering stat. Nicolas Jackson 18, Didier Drogba 16, Luis Suarez 12, Robin van Persie 8. So whenever we do these kind of broad comparisons around a player currently, and, comparing them, I think I've done similar with Cole Palmer, Eden Hazard, Cole Palmer, Diego Costa. It's not trying to say that that player is destined to be better than the great we are comparing them to. It's to give context of how well they are doing, and it's undeniable of how well those numbers stack up when you actually think about Nicolas Jackson. I also wanted to take a look at Nicolas Jackson kind of at this point last year, and then comparing it to the numbers so far this season. And again, it just kind of showcases how he's improving in front of goal. And then we'll go into some specific examples, of course, looking at the West Ham game, but others as well. So this is from Y-Scout. So if we look at goals per 90 this time last year, 0.17. Shots per 90, 2.77. Shots on target, 37%. In terms of goal conversion, 6.25. Touches in the opposition box, 5.02. 0 assists per 90, 0.52 2 key passes per 90, 84% in terms of accurate passes. But then just jumping down to this season in comparison, his goals per 90 are up 0.62. Also shots on target 55%. That is also up from last year. Goal conversion 22. Another one that is up from last year. Touches in the opposition box have also gone quite a bit up, 4.81. Assists per 90 also going up 0.31, and key passes per 90 0.78. So his overall game, his overall influence is moving in a real positive direction. Let's look at the West Ham game. So obviously it was an amazing day for Nicolas Jackson. I mean, in terms of all-round centre-forward play, this was, I labelled it a masterclass, but I mean, it really was in terms of what you would want a centre-forward to do for you, in terms of scoring, in terms of creating, in terms of his movement, in terms of dragging centre-backs around, in terms of link-up play, holding up the ball, constantly being an outlet for your midfield and defence. I mean, Jackson was absolutely that. And yeah, sure, it's easy to point out that West Ham's defensive structure was abysmal. I mean, it truly was, and it's hard to get away from that. But at the same time, Jackson still has to take those opportunities. He still needs to make those movements, which is what he did. What I really like about this is we see down the left channel, we saw this briefly last season, is when Jackson does go down the channel, specifically the left one, because earlier in his career he did play as a winger, and Pochettino even tried him kind of in periods of the games. I specifically remember the Aston Villa away game in the FA Cup. He dominated in that area as well. But we're going to show an example of where this kind of one-on-one opportunity, where he's up against Areola, he gets in the box, he's confident, he knows what he's going to do, puts it through the legs of Areola. Alvarez can't keep up with him, and it's 1-0. Another example here of him, again, going down that flank, finding space, but this time, a couple of minutes after the first goal, he picks up the ball from Marco Correa. Chelsea are on a counter-attack, and he does have Madueke and Palmer bursting forward on the right-hand side. But this time, he's kind of in a very identical position to the first goal, and Alvarez is maybe kind of expecting at this point, got his body in position to expect Jackson to keep on going, maybe go for goal again. But this time, he switches things up, cuts inside, which kind of catches Alvarez off guard, and threads a brilliantly weighted ball into the centre of the box, where Cole Palmer, I think, absolutely should be scoring. I think the reaction after from Palmer was enough, but it was another great example of an opportunity where Jackson... it has the ability now to go at goal, has the speed and movement to take on Alvarez and beat him easily, but also cut inside and create a good opportunity, be a little bit selfless there. And I wanted to show a specific example from last season of how Jackson as a player has evolved in these circumstances. Yes, we're talking about a different opposition, I think a better structured opposition, but against Brentford last season, we see him on the left flank here, where he's moving towards goal. Yes, it isn't as close, but he cuts inside, and Palmer makes a really smart movement into the centre of the box. And, you know, Chelsea up against a rigid defensive block. This was a classic low block problem game for Chelsea, where we eventually lost 2-0, and it wasn't a great day for Nicolas Jackson, but probably taught him a lot as being a Premier League centre forward. He got a lot of criticism after this game, and he could play the ball. If he looks up, he could play that ball into Cole Palmer, who we know was exceptional last year in these kind of areas for Chelsea, but instead... he's kind of selfish. He takes a low quality chance and it goes harmlessly wide, and Brentford are going to have that all day. And it just shows you again the evolution of Jackson's game being a little less selfish in key areas, you know, making that judgment. Sometimes you can go for goal, sometimes you should be looking for your teammate, and I think judging that has made him a better player in 12 months time. Let's look at the second goal, and this is kind of an overview of how Chelsea are set up and how they were set up in possession. I side point, but I loved Marco Correa inverting more than the right hand side doing it. I just think it's more natural. We saw it at the end of last season for Pochettino. Correa is just more natural, and I think Chelsea look a more cohesive unit in central midfield. They seem a little bit more fluid when Correa is the one inverting rather than the right back doing it. In this case, it was Fofana, so it naturally created a back three of Fofana, Tosin and Colwell, and then you had Caicedo as the anchor. Correa a little bit in front here, receiving possession. Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer dropping deep. And then you have the two wide players, Madueke, Sancho, and then Jackson. The movement here of Jackson is just brilliant. Once the ball moves towards Enzo Fernandez, he starts to move towards the ball. He drags Alvarez with him, who he already knows he has the beating of. He's dragged him and then turns him easily. And then Caicedo has a simple task really to thread the ball into an open space where Jackson is already making that move. absolutely leaves Alvarez in the dust. And I thought this was another great example of Jackson's improvement one-on-one. We've seen examples last year. Specifically, I have picked out one against Man City in the FA Cup semi-final where he was one-on-one several times in that game, rushes his shot, maybe doesn't take the right touch, but this time finishes it off brilliantly and makes it 2-0. And just again, that electric speed and movement. But there are other parts to his game so far this season I do think are worth highlighting. Even though Chelsea lost this game, there were some nice moments in the Man City game at the start of the season where he receives the ball here from Cole Palmer. He shrugs off Akanji, so you see that physicality maybe improving a lot from last year. He does have that physicality, but I think as he gets older, you hope that kind of gets better, but he's adapted to it. He spins Akanji, who is a good defender for Man City. And then it's not only about having the right first touch, holding up the ball, creating an outlet for Chelsea, but then the way he spins and then just opens up his body and curls this brilliant pass round the corner towards Christopher Nkunku. If Enzo Fernandez is playing that ball, if Cole Palmer's playing that pass, I mean, we're talking about it. And it just shows, again, maybe parts of his game that isn't being appreciated enough, really, and I think is worth highlighting. I also wanted to pick out this one-on-one opportunity that I referenced in my review. We think about those two chances against West Ham at the weekend where he's one-on-one. He has time to think about it. He's bearing down a goal. And both times he makes the right decision. He finishes off brilliantly. This was in the dying moments against Crystal Palace this season. And his first touch isn't that good. He doesn't make the right connection with the ball. It always feels like the ball is kind of out of control of him. He doesn't quite feel like he's assured and calm and composed. It shows you the difference when a striker is confident. And he is pressured a lot better here by Palace's defenders, and Hennessy makes the save. But it just shows you in those moments there still is room for improvement, but very quickly improvement in the space of a couple of weeks where he gets similar opportunities and he puts them away confidently. I picked out other examples here looking back to last season away at Man United where Sterling plays him in and he feels the need to take a touch here. This is before Christmas last year, and Onana kind of absolutely deals with the situation and the chance is gone. And I just wonder, because of that confidence and that development in Jackson's game, we've seen first time finishes from him now. Barely any touches for the West Ham goal and in the second case there for the second goal. I do wonder whether Jackson would finish this chance now. 12 months later, I think with more conviction in his game, with more confidence maybe in his technique, with more experience, he's taking this opportunity rather than 12 months ago, raw, erratic, maybe lacking that confidence, feeling the pressure and the burden of being Chelsea centre forward. He feels like he has to take a touch. I don't think he'd be taking that touch now, and I think that maybe shows a development in his game. Another example here of him, again, against Brentford, getting frustrated, edge of the box and wildly taking a swing. I don't think Jackson of today is doing that. I think he's probably looking for a passing option, maybe trying to take the ball further into the box, backing his movement, backing his speed a little bit more. And that comes with development. Yes, you think way back to the start of his Chelsea career, that really gilt-edged chance against Nottingham Forest where he's leaning back, the ball goes over the bar and Chelsea lose the game 1-0. Again, you can't say for certain, of course, but I just, watching back these clips, I think it's not that Jackson had no positives when he started his career at Chelsea, but there is a different level of conviction and kind of broader shoulders and feeling like Jackson just is becoming more refined, which sure you expect, but I mean, not every player does this, and I think it's easy to forget how pressurised playing as Chelsea centre forward is and how quickly he's adapted to it. The numbers speak for themselves in terms of his finishing chances, but as well, the link up with Cole Palmer. This is something that Chelsea's own Twitter account brought up today. They've combined for 10 goals between them since both of them signed for Chelsea last year. And I think it shows, again, this connection that they've had. It's very important. Jackson almost set up another goal for Palmer earlier in the game, which we've already looked at, but this is for the third goal. And it was criticised about Jackson, it was criticised about maybe Palmer and Madueke and Chelsea's players last year. They were a little bit too selfish in these moments, at times not always looking for their teammate, trying to score the worldie all the time. But this time Jackson makes a forward run, he makes a smart run, it opens up space for Palmer to make that run on the outside. It's not an amazing pass. I think, in a sense, it's quite simple. Again, there was lots of space for Chelsea to run into, but maybe just shows that Jackson maybe of last year isn't playing this pass. He's maybe going a little bit further, trying to score himself, and he sets up the goal for Cole Palmer. But there were great examples of how those two have combined to become a really effective duo for Chelsea. So overall, Jackson is a brilliant centre forward. I think that is becoming clearer and clearer. Each week he is developing into the player Chelsea hoped they bought when they did buy him from Villarreal for not a massive fee, under 40 million. And there are still raw parts of his game. There have been frustrating moments already this season, and there probably will be again. He obviously isn't Erling Haaland. There obviously is still a way for him to go. But the numbers, again, we'll go back to what we started this show with, because I think they're undeniable. 16 goals since the start of last season. Now, do you think they should be more? They probably should be more based on the XG he made up last year. He missed a lot of opportunities last year. But when you compare that to Isaac, Salah, Palmer, Solanke, Kai Havertz, again, a player that Chelsea let go, and I think rightly, and I think Jackson's been a massive improvement, because I think the all-round nature of Jackson's game, there are stats we can look at, but there are also parts of his game in the eye test that I see weekly where you see the movement he makes and the way he drags opposing defenders around. He opens up space for others, the tireless work from the front, the way I think physically his hold-up play has got better, and that was proved by that Man City clip we watched earlier. I could have picked out others too. All of this for me lines up that Jackson is becoming a better player for Chelsea. And of course, we spent a lot of the summer talking about whether Chelsea needed a centre forward. There was the whole drama with Victor Osimhen later on in the window, and it's hard to say whether Chelsea will still go and sign Victor Osimhen. I can't say that for certain, but I always was a big advocate for Jackson being given another season, because I think he absolutely justified more minutes because of his output last year. And already this season, I think he's repaying that faith. And maybe, just maybe, by the time we reach the January window, by the time we reach next summer, there won't be a conversation. There may be a conversation about Chelsea buying someone to try and rival him, or someone to try and compete and share those minutes. But in terms of being Chelsea centre forward at the moment, it's about him justifying that place, and I think he absolutely is at the moment. So for Jackson, wonderful weekend. Let's hope he can continue on this trend, because he absolutely deserves his flowers, because he has proven to be a really smart signing for Chelsea in what is a problematic area. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.